Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our second to last show of the week. We are talking New Year's Six Bowls and college football playoffs here. We are into the meat of the action, gentlemen. Joined again by Andy Hopper, Tom Scavetta. How's it going this week, guys?
Uh, I'm in heaven right now, guys. I don't know about you, but I mean, obviously we've had the canceled bowl games, which have sucked, but the ones we've had so far have been amazing. We're getting. I mean, I know I'm in the central time zone over here, so I'm waking up and we got our first bowl game every morning at like 10 a.m., 10:30, and we're going till 9 p.m. I can't complain, guys. I love bowl season. Anybody that says there's too many bowls needs to get the dick out of their ass and just enjoy themselves. Doing great, Tom. How are you?
Uh, I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. First game of the Marcus Freeman era as the head coach of Notre Dame football. I'm really excited, and we have both semifinal games later on today. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Bowl season has been a dandy so far, and Brian McArdle, congratulations to you. Your UCF Knights have beaten
I
the
love
Bounce
it.
Florida
house.
Gators.
Bounce house. SEC 1-5 so far in the playoff, and then they'll fuck around and get two in the national championship game.
Speaking of all these dandies of a bowl game, as Tom put it, what has been your favorite bowl game of these regular bowl games so far, Andy?
Did you guys watch the Music City Bowl last night? Because that
Indeed.
was drunk as fuck. That game was awesome. It was every time you looked up the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, there was another touchdown being scored. I think one dude on Purdue had like multiple like 70 or 60-yard touchdowns, which is just insane to have in one game. Purdue ends up winning the game in overtime, 48-45. I don't know about you guys, but I thought Tennessee got screwed out of a touchdown in the overtime
I
period. I
agree.
don't think the running back was ever down. Looked to me like he crossed the plane um, of the end zone before a knee hit or anything. They blew the play dead, which I don't know how you blow the play dead, but I mean, just look at the stat line. Aiden O'Connell, quarterback of Purdue, throws for 534 yards and 5 touchdowns. Hendon Hooker on the Tennessee side has 378 yards and 5 touchdowns for himself. But it was an incredible football game and what bowl season was all about. Also, Shane Beamer from South Carolina getting the mayo dumped on him on the Mayo Bowl was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Just as disgusting as Golick Jr. and Anish Shirak, or however you say his name, on the broadcast, dunking random items into the mayo and then trying them was really gross too. But it's bowl season, baby. You can't beat it. And then Michigan State's 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter. I mean, I could go on, but also shout out Bob Stoops coming back and getting a bowl win for Oklahoma.
Yeah, definitely. All good games there that you mentioned. The Mayo thing was very disgusting. I tweeted out right after it that somewhere out there, Paula Dean is probably very upset at all that wasted mayonnaise. They had to give like the double chuck because usually they do the
They
tip.
almost hit him in the head with the
Yep.
fucking cooler of
Yeah,
it.
they did like that whole chuck where they stop and because they didn't know if the mayo was gonna come out, but he got it good. Almost got KO'd by the mayo, but
I might
uh,
throw up on the broadcast today, guys. Jesus.
Tom, what's your pick for bowl games so far?
Well, as Andy mentioned, the Purdue Tennessee game was good last night, and that receiver you were thinking of, Andy, Brock Thompson, had 7 receptions for 217 yards and 2 scores. I talked about UCF in Florida briefly, but Oregon is such a fraud. I got to tell you, they never deserved to be ranked as high as they were. They got blown out by Utah twice, and they lay an egg against the Oklahoma Sooners and true freshman quarterback Caleb Williams, who just went off for 3 touchdowns. Kennedy Brooks had 3 on the ground. The Sooners had 322 rushing yards. And you want to talk about getting punched in the mouth. They got scored 24-0 in the second quarter, the Ducks did.
Yeah,
Unacceptable,
it was bad.
unbelievable. And the
Hey,
Duke's Mayo Bowl, you were just talking about, Sam Howell not helping his draft stock. Awful performance in the Duke's Mayo Bowl against the
yeah.
Gamecocks.
It was Bell on South Carolina had a 69-yard touchdown and a 66-yard touchdown on like back-to-back drives in
Yeah.
the Mayo Bowl. Just like everybody drew it up, the SEC's only bowl win so far is South Carolina.
Yeah, for me, bowl game obviously was UCF versus Florida. Didn't think we had it in us. Uh, Fortunately, we did pull it out of the bag. Gasparilla Bowl. Isaiah Bowser, our running back, kid is an absolute animal. I wish we were going to have him for a few more years. I think I was talking to Tom about him. Uh, the kid is a beast, but he transferred from Northwestern too late. Had 3 years up there. We only got him for one, but he just ran all over Florida, especially in the second half. They came out of the locker room and he just pummeled them. So for me, that's the obvious one. And like you said, Music City Bowl last night was a very fun watch. I watched the replay about 50 times though, and he definitely got that arm with the ball into the end zone before they blew the whistle even. So very odd one for me that they went against Tennessee there, but it happens. We're going to move into the upcoming bowl games now, starting with the Gator Bowl. This is in about 30 minutes. We have Wake Forest taking on the stand-in Rutgers, Jacksonville, Florida, where things happen. Rutgers is a perfect team, I feel like, for the Jacksonville area. Andy, we'll start with you. Who do you have in this game?
I got to take Wake Forest, and I love Rutgers. I love Shiano. Sing me a song, the Shiano Man. But I mean, they took this game like a week ago. Wake Forest has been practicing this whole time. They're ready. They're one of the best offenses in the country, averaging over 400 yards of total offense and 40 points a game. I mean, I know if you look at the Rutgers side, they're only allowing 24 points per game and putting up 20 themselves. Their quarterback, Noah Vedral, has 7 touchdowns to 6 interceptions on only like 1,500 yards on the year. You compare that to Sam Hartman, who's been one of the best quarterbacks in the country so far this year. Jaquari Roberson has opted out of this game for the Demon Deacons. That's going to be a huge piece of their offense missing, but I just don't know if a 5-7 Rutgers team has enough to win this game. I'm taking Wake Forest. I know that's super chalky, but give me the Demon Deacons.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, Wake Forest averaging 41 points per game. They still have A.T. Perry, though, 14 tutties on the season. That's going to be a go-to player. And then senior defensive lineman Luigi Villain has 9 sacks, so he's going to be doing a good job in the trenches for sure. They are coming off that 45-21 loss to Pittsburgh, but Rutgers is kind of an unproven team. Wake Forest has been preparing for this game much longer, so give me the Demon Deacons in this one.
Yeah, this is another one of those games where you want to pull for the underdog. Rutgers, it's almost like WWE-esque. Just the lights go out, Rutgers. Oh, that's Rutgers music. But this Wake Forest offense is just too powerful. And this is a Rutgers team that allows almost 400 yards of offense per game. So I think Sam Hartman here is probably gonna run all over them. And like Tom said, A.T. Perry. A very nice receiving option for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Wake Forest covers the over-under themselves. I think it's like 61.5 or something.
I'm so torn on this game. It starts in 30 minutes. I need a pick for it. It's Wake Forest is favored by 17 points right now. I don't know if you want to lay 17, but then again, I've fucking taken Rutgers plus 14, plus 15 this year, and they've screwed me over. So it kind of feels like a spite bet. What Wake Forest team total over under is at 39.5.
That's an over for sure.
Yes. I think that's the play. I think we just figured out the play, gentlemen.
For a team over, yeah. Sam Hartman, I think, wants to be the next Pickett in the ACC. So he might throw all over this Rutgers team. Moving on to the next one. I'm going to be keeping track of that bet, by the way. Moving on to the next one, we have Washington State taking on another fill-in team, Central Michigan. Arizona Bowl got canceled. These two teams came together in harmony to play the Tony the Tiger Bowl here. Andy, we'll start with you again. Who do you have taking this one?
First of all, this sucks that the Arizona Bowl got canceled. One because I did a write-up about it. So of course, but so Central Michigan and Washington State jump over to the Sun Bowl. Central Michigan jumps from the Arizona Bowl after Boise State had to back out. They're getting more money from the Sun Bowl rather than finding a replacement for the Arizona Bowl. So that's why they move over. Can't blame them for that. They're a MAC program. You got to take the bigger payout whenever you can. Daniel Richardson has been incredible for the Chippewas so far this year. He's fun to watch. He slings the ball around the yard. He's got 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. I like Jim McElwain's team in this game. They have I don't think he's the leading rusher in the nation, but he by far has the most carries in Lou Nickel III with 311 carries, 1,700 yards on the ground. Look for them to pound the rock. Also look for them to find Pimpleton through the air. Awesome name for the Chippewas at receiver. I'm going to go Chippewas in an upset. Maction, baby.
Oh, I like it. Tom?
Yeah, well, if you look at Washington State, they lost to Oregon, but they beat Arizona and Washington, right? And Jaden Delores had an up and down type of season. I like their running back, Max Borghi, 12 touchdowns, has a big chance to be an impact on this game, and 2 solid wide receivers in Calvin Jackson Jr. and Travell Harris. However, this is where the Chippewas come into play. Finished first in the MAC. You talked about Lou Nichols, Andy. Khalil Pimpleton, Dallas Dixon, and Ja'Cory Sullivan are all threats. Tony the Tiger Bowl. This tells me this has upset written all over for me. I'm actually going to agree with Andy and take Central Michigan to beat Washington State, who is favored by 7 in this game.
Wow, we're going clean sweep for an upset here. I'm also taking the Chippewas. The number one thing for me, like Andy said, 311 carries for Lou Nichols. They have a very, very nice balanced offense, this Chippewas team. Washington State has been up and down all year. I think they're still a decent team. They're favored by 7 here. But yeah, this is just one. I think this will be a fun game to watch, actually. Both offenses pretty electric. So, yeah, I'm taking the Chippewas as well. And I also will just end that with Frosted Flakes is a top 5 cereal. So there you go, Tony the Tiger. Next up, we got the Outback Bowl, Penn State taking on Arkansas. Andy, who's taking it?
This is an interesting one for me. Penn State just lost their defensive coordinator, Brent Pry. He is going to be taking the Virginia Tech job. He's already gone. It'll be interesting to see how that defense responds to this, to that departure. I'm just going to be a Big Ten homer and take Penn State. I don't know. Sean Clifford has had an up and down year so far this year, but I haven't been sold on Arkansas since about like week 4 or 5. So I'm going to take the Nittany Lions here, go against that SEC 1-5 record so far for the bowl game.
All right, Tom.
Bowl game.
Well, the Nittany Lions started out the season 5-0. They end up losing 3 straight to Iowa, Andy's Fighting Illini, and Ohio State. Okay. James Franklin then proceeded to have that nightmare press conference after the Illinois loss. It looked like he was doing the monster mash in the middle of a media press conference. And then one thing to note, Penn State wide receiver Jahan Dotson, who has 12 touchdowns, has opted out along with safety Jaquan Brisker. Also,
that's huge. Can I change my pick?
No. No, Andy. I mean, it's up to you, man. But just to finish my point, the Razorbacks also had a 3-game losing streak in October. They lost to Texas, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State, and the Razorbacks only lost to Alabama by 7 points. KJ Jefferson, only 3 interceptions the entire year. I like Traylon Burks at wide receiver. I like Montarik Brown, 5 picks on the defensive end of the football. I'm going Arkansas here. I think there's a little bit too much wishy-washy going on with Penn State right now.
Yeah, I'll agree. And that list is actually longer and more concerning than you led up. They've lost Derek Tangelo, Arnold Ebiketie, Jahan Dotson, Jaquan Brisker, Ellis Brooks, and Brandon Smith. At least 5 of those are very big players for them. So that's a ton of pieces to lose. Obviously, everyone understands why these kids are opting out. But Arkansas gets the benefit of being young here because their guys are not going to opt out. And I believe, I don't know if KJ Jefferson is still holding a knock or not. My guess is he'll play in this game, at least show up. I haven't heard anything that says differently. So he's been one of the most fun players to watch all season. And listen, I'm not going against the pit boss now. You guys know I've been on the pit boss train all season long. They let me down a few times, but yeah, I like the Razorbacks here against the Nittany Lions. Moving on, Tom, you'll like this game. We got the Fiesta Bowl, Oklahoma State taking on Notre Dame. Andy, we'll start with you. Who's taking it?
I'd love to pick the Cowboys here just to watch Tom's blood boil, but I don't think I can do that. The three of us have talked about Spencer Sanders quite heavily the past few weeks. You know, you're talking about a guy with 2,400 yards on the year, 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. The past couple games, he's just kind of looked lost out there. Is Kyle Hamilton playing in this game?
Opted out.
No, he opted out. Well, I was going to take him to pick off Sanders at least one time if he was playing. But no matter, I will still take the Irish. Tom talked about it earlier. It's Marcus Freeman's head coaching debut. We know how much this team got behind that hire, really pushed for that hire, and made their voices heard. I think they go out in this first game since Brian Kelly's left the program and really make a statement.
Yeah, I'm going Notre Dame here as well. Picked against them enough for Tom's liking, so
every chance we get.
yeah. So I'll throw in some support here. Oklahoma State is not a bad team. To me, this is baffling. Oklahoma State averages 402 yards per game, but we all have eyes. We've all watched Spencer Sanders. Where are these yards coming from? I mean, Jalen Warren's been doing pretty good, but I mean, they're a very confusing team. And it's always hard to pick them or pick teams like this. I still think they're very good. Losing Kyle Hamilton is a big loss for Notre Dame. Yeah, I just can't pick this Oklahoma State team. They're such a weird team. And Tom, I'm sure you got some stuff to tell us about this game. So who are you taking?
All right, let's open the playbook, fellas. So, Ramon Henderson will be joining Houston Griffith back there in the secondary to replace Kyle Hamilton. Another big name to note, running back Kyron Williams has also opted out of this game, entering the NFL draft, finished the season with over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. He's a junior. He'll be missed. Look for Chris Tyree and Logan Diggs to split time in the backfield tomorrow. Each of them barely rushed for over 200 yards this season. But one point of note is that Chris Tyree has gotten reps throughout the season, and Logan Diggs looked really impressive in their last game against Stanford. Another note, Blake Fisher starting at right tackle. Zeke Correll will not be starting in this game. We had some issues earlier this season at both tackle spots on the offensive line until the emergence of Joe Alt. Now that Joe Alt is the solidified left tackle, can Blake Fisher be the guy at right tackle? That's what I'm looking at in this game. Jack Cohn, 20 touchdown passes on the season to just 6 interceptions. Solid Notre Dame career for him. Look for Kevin Austin and Mike Mayer, who leads Notre Dame with 64 receptions on the season. Now, who's going to step up defensively without Kyle Hamilton? I'm looking at redshirt junior J.D. Bertrand, who leads this team with 93 tackles. I'm looking at the Adamalola brothers, who can both get to the quarterback. Marcus Freeman is the elephant in the room. It's going to be really weird for me personally watching Brian Kelly not be on the sidelines. Brian Kelly's been the head coach of Notre Dame since I've been in 8th grade. So now that's going to be really odd for me. Spencer Sanders is toast. Oklahoma State, they did finish first in the Big 12 at 11-2 in the regular season, but lost the Big 12 title game to the Baylor Bears. I do have a little bit of concern with Jalen Warren. He's obviously a threat, but I think our run defense will diagnose him. The biggest thing for me, gentlemen, to keep an eye on, Colin Oliver is a nuisance with 11.5 sacks on the season, and they have a complimentary piece in Brock Martin, who also has 7. I mentioned Blake Fisher going up against those heavy pass rushers for the Cowboys. I don't see the Cowboys being able to cause that much of a havoc. Give me Notre Dame in this one, and I can finally celebrate some type of win against the team named the Cowboys this season.
Love it.
Bridesmaids, number 5.
Next up, we have the Citrus Bowl. Number 15, Iowa, taking on number 22, Kentucky. Andy, who's taking it?
Fuck Iowa, first of all. That's obligatory. Fuck Gary Barta. Fuck Iowa. They're frauds. They were frauds all year, and I knew that. Hilarious. Remember when they were ranked number 2 for like 2 seconds? Yeah, that was so cute. Kentucky's going to come into this game, and they're going to kick their fucking ass, okay? Normally, I'm all Big Ten all the time, but when it comes to the Hawkeyes, that's where you lose me. This is the Verbo Citrus Bowl. I don't know where I got vibes. Just getting good vibes from the Wildcats, I guess. But Will Levis is going to be a problem for this defense. He can do it through the air. He can do it with his legs. He has over 2,500 yards and 23 touchdowns on the year for the Kentucky Wildcats. We know how good this Hawkeye defense is, whether I like them or not. They are an elite defense in the country, one of the best teams at turning the ball over. They're only allowing 19.2 total points per game. Kentucky is going to have their hands full. But I mean, I love Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a threat. They move him in the slot. Sometimes they bring him in the backfield. They can move him out wide. I love Kentucky in this game. They have the SEC's leading rusher in Chris Rodriguez Jr., who averaged almost 6 yards a carry on the year in SEC play. Anytime I can pick against Spencer Petras and the Hawkeyes, I'm going to do it. I believe Tyler Goodson has opted out of this game. Other than that, I'm not sure, but I'm going to take Kentucky.
All right, Tom.
Well, that's where the offensive production comes from, Andy. So if he's not playing, Spencer Petras, who's already a mess, will probably be unable to get up from the turf by the middle of the second quarter at this rate. I will give them this. Tyler Linderbaum is a beast. This guy is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He is the best center in the nation this year.
Goodson's out. He opted out. Give me Kentucky.
But back to Tyler Linderbaum. This could be his audition to be the next center of the New York Football Giants.
Okay.
Had to throw that in there, but I like him a lot. Keep an eye out on him in the trenches in this game. A lot of people don't pay attention to offensive linemen, so I'm going to give offensive linemen credit where credit is due. Jack Campbell defensively is a beast at linebacker, 126 tackles, 2 picks. Joe Evans and Luke Van Ness, each with 6 sacks. Dane Belton and Riley Moss combined for 9 interceptions in the secondary. But I like Kentucky, and I'm going with the Wildcats.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Spencer Petras, absolute hot garbage. Can I just say, this is like not a year to be named Spencer and be a quarterback. Rattler, Sanders, and Petras. All awful. So, yeah, just another fraud team. Another fraud team here. I do like the dual threat that Will Levis brings here. Yeah, I just can't pick this Iowa team. They're like the Oregon to me. Barta and crew put them all the way up there, and everyone's calling them out. And they tell us we're wrong. No, you were wrong, Mr. Barta. Listen, Kentucky, all things considered here, I think Kentucky has a pretty good defense. And Iowa's going to need to focus on that rush game. Like I said, Petras is god-awful through the air. So, and then going back to probably, their toughest opponent on the ground was the game against Georgia. They held them to 166 rushing yards. It's not great, but it's not terrible for a team that's, always powerful in the running game. So I think that they'll be able to handle Iowa, excuse me, a little bit better than Georgia on the ground. And then Iowa's got nothing left. So I'm taking Kentucky as well. Then moving on next, we have the Rose Bowl. Ohio State taking on Utah. Andy, who's taking it?
I kind of like the Utes in this game. But I'm not sure. I mean, I love what Cam Rising has been able to do for Utah since being inserted into the lineup, for Charlie Brewer, and Charlie Brewer getting pissed and leaving Utah. But since entering, Rising has 2,279 yards, 18 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. You talk about a dual threat. This guy can also do it with his legs. I believe Garrett Wilson has opted out of this game for Ohio State. Obviously, they'll still have Smith and Jigba. I don't know about Chris Olave, but he's out as well. So
that's rough.
It is rough. I believe they're still going to have Henderson. You're talking about a guy that's gone for 15 touchdowns and over 1,100 yards on the ground on the year. I think Utah's frisky, and I think they're going to come into this game maybe wanting it more than Ohio State, a team that had their eyes set on the college football playoff almost the entire year until that loss to Michigan. So this could be one of those bowl games where you say, oh, one of these teams, wants to be here a little bit more. So I'm going anti-Big Ten once again, and I'm taking Utah.
All right, Tom.
Well, we've trashed the Pac-12 a lot this season, but Utah's been that one team that's kind of come on hot as of late. They beat Oregon twice and won the Pac-12 title for the first time ever. Tavin Thomas, 20 rushing touchdowns on the season. TJ Pledger, not too bad either. Almost 700 yards on the ground and 6 TDs himself. I love my tight ends. Brant Kuth is going to be a problem with 6 touchdowns. Devin Lloyd, 107 tackles, 8 sacks, 4 picks for the Utes. Mika Tafua as well, 9.5 sacks. But we get to the Buckeyes. 45 points per game, gentlemen, this season. That leads the nation. They average over 550 yards of although the common opponent is there. But they played Oregon earlier on in the season. What type of impact does that have in this game? They still have Travion Henderson, Chris Olave, and Garrett Wilson, who both opted out, accounted for 25 of CJ Stroud's 38 touchdown passes this season. So Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to have to step up. Tight end Jeremy Rucker, Emeka Epuka at wide receiver as well, in addition to Marvin Harrison Jr. And yes, that is the son, ladies and gentlemen, are going to have to step up in this game. Andy, you may think the Utes want it more, but Big Ten against Pac-12, give me the Buckeyes.
Wow.
They're going to find a way.
You almost turned me there. Nah, I can't do it. I've been talking up Utah all season. Nobody believed me. I think they're going to lose this game, but I'm picking them because I want them to get the win here. I think it'd be a big win for them in their program. Yeah, like Andy said, Cam Rising, absolutely electric player.
The Urban Meyer Bowl.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
There you go. Yeah. Maybe they should have made like a bust of his face, or maybe a bust of him sitting on a bar stool getting grinded on.
Yeah, it should have been the bar picture,
no
right?
Shit.
Moving on to the next one, we have the Sugar Bowl. Baylor taking on Ole Miss. Both teams had higher hopes for this season, but they've ended up in the Sugar Bowl here in New Orleans. Andy, who's your pick?
Wow, this is tough. I love what Dave Aranda was able to do this year with Baylor, and Gary Bohannon had a great year. They end up having to go to the freshman quarterback, who of course I'm forgetting his name now that I need to know it, who ends up winning them the Big 12 championship game. Abram Smith played linebacker last year, starts at running back this year, and goes for 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns for Baylor. I believe he's declared for the draft, but I'm not sure if he has opted out or not. There's so many opt-outs, you'd like to think I would keep better track of it. But anyway, both of these teams are explosive on offense. We have two teams that are averaging over 30 points per game. Defensively, though, is where Baylor might have the edge here, guys. Only allowing 19 points a game and 347 total yards allowed. If you compare that to Ole Miss, they're allowing 25 points a game and over 400 total yards of offense. I think this is going to be an exciting game. You mentioned it's in New Orleans. That maybe has a little bit of a crowd advantage for Ole Miss. I love Lane Kiffin. All aboard the Lane train. I'm going to take Ole Miss here.
All right, Tom.
Right. Well, I believe Abram Smith might be playing in this game. I believe so because there's no known report of him opting out, although he has declared for the NFL draft. Tyquan Thornton and R.J. Sneed are the go-to receivers for Jerry Bohannon, and I like Gabe Hall and Terrell Bernard defensively, but Matt Corral is a problem. He doesn't need to play in this game, but he's going to play in this game. 20 touchdowns, 4 picks on the year, 11 rushing touchdowns, and I like Jerry on early. I like Snoop Connor, 13 touchdowns on the ground, and Dontario Drummond has been a beast for them in the receiving game, and their defensive lineman, Sam Williams, 12.5 sacks from an interior defensive lineman.
My word.
Yeah, it's like Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh, my. They are playing against the Bears. So, I mean, this does prove some cause for concern. But give me the Ole Miss Rebels in this one. They're favored by 1.5. They're just going to sneak by the Baylor Bears. Great season, though, for the Baylor Bears.
I do agree that this is a little bit of home field advantage for Ole Miss here. The SEC loves the Sugar Bowl. The fans will travel, especially to a party city like New Orleans. But I have to pick the Bears here. Dave Aranda has done. I don't want to say it's a miracle, but the turnaround of this program since they got the death penalty a few years back has been phenomenal. I know Aranda's only been there a short time, but this team is clicking on all cylinders. And to comment on the opt-outs, there are basically no opt-outs in this game for either team here. So it should be pretty evenly matched as far as that goes. Listen, Ole Miss, we know them as the offensive powerhouse. They haven't been producing down the stretch. They had that loss to Auburn where they only put up 20 points. They only put up 27 against Liberty, who is not the best of teams there. They did have a nice win against Texas A&M, but then they only put up 31 against the worst team in the history of the SEC, Vanderbilt. So, yeah, I think they've, after those few losses, they kind of toned things down. They realized that their shot at the CFP was gone. Lane Train wasn't cooking as hot as it usually is. So I'm going with the Bears. Then we're going to hop forward to January 4th. Why this game is that far in the future, I don't know, but we have Kansas State taking on LSU in the Texas Bowl. Andy, who's your pick?
Yeah, Taxac Texas Bowl. Everybody gets up for this one. Max Johnson is gone to Texas A&M for the Tigers. I believe Miles Brennan going to get the start for LSU, but I'm not 100% on that. Obviously, I mean, I don't think Brian Kelly's not going to coach this game. Obviously, if you look at what LSU has done this year, they're 6-6. They had quite a few games against very good teams where they probably should have won. I'm talking to you, Alabama. They do end up beating Texas A&M. They go to overtime with a ranked Arkansas team. I love LSU. Death Valley is on my bucket list as far as stadiums to go to. I kind of like Kansas State in this game, though. I just don't know what to expect, what we're going to get on the field from LSU. They already had all these injuries all year. I think Boutte is not playing. Their number one receiver with 9 touchdowns on the year. Skylar Thompson on the Kansas State side has been, I think this is his 6th year in the program. He's a senior. He means a lot to Kansas State. He's got 1,854 yards, 9 touchdowns, only four interceptions on the year. Those numbers don't really pop out at you, but I think he's going to lead Kansas State to a victory over LSU in this game. Look for Deuce Vaughn. He is incredible. He's 5'6" at running back. He basically is Darren Sproles. He's Darren Sproles. That's who he is. He's so fun to watch. 1,258 yards and 15 touchdowns on 214 carries. I hate to do this, but I'm taking Kansas State.
All right, Tom.
All right, so the big news is Aiden Martinez is transferring to Kansas State, and they played tight games against Baylor and Oklahoma this year. Andy mentioned Deuce Vaughn. I like Felix Anaduke Uzoma, 11 sacks on the year. Another note for LSU, linebacker Damone Clark has opted out of this game. He was their leading tackler this season, in addition to Max Johnson. I think Grant Nussmeier might be getting the start for LSU in this game. I'm not sure if it's going to be him or Miles Brennan, but they still have Tyrion Davis-Price, 1,000-yard rusher, B.J. Ojolari with 6 sacks. Offensive line coach Brad Davis will be serving as interim head coach for this Texas Bowl game. So give me Kansas State in this one.
So I will let you know on that one that Garrett Nussmeier is not going to be playing. They are redshirting him, which I think is the only reason Miles Brennan is back on the team. Because didn't he hit up the transfer portal?
He was in the portal
for
and
a
then
week.
he dropped the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving.
Yeah,
Which is the best clip to post if you ever enter the portal and come back to your school. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like as soon as, well, not as soon as, but like a day or two after Max Johnson committed to Texas A&M, Brendan announced he was coming back.
Yeah, so it's gonna be him all game long. Because Max Johnson out, Newsmeyer will be getting redshirted for this game, so not going to be available at all.
Yeah.
Kansas State is favored in this game. I don't know how much of that had to do with Max Johnson being out, but I got to go with the Wildcats, boys. I love LSU. They're like my team away from home. I think besides FSU, I've been to more LSU games than anything except for UCF. But listen, they got rid of Coach O. Johnson, who was, one of the pillars of that team this year, is gone. I don't know. I have to pick against LSU here. I think it'll be a close game. But yeah, I'm just going Wildcats on a hunch. We got the playoffs, boys. Alabama versus Cincinnati. Michigan versus Georgia. We'll start off here with the Cotton Bowl. Alabama taking on Cincy. Andy, we'll start with you. Is Cincinnati pulling the upset in this game, or is Alabama on to like their billionth national title game?
I want to pick Cincinnati so goddamn bad, dude. I want to pick them so bad. I want them to beat Alabama so bad, but I just don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think I can. Especially after I was like all in, like I thought Georgia was going to beat the shit out of Alabama. Shocker, I was wrong. I mean, I love what Cincy's done this year. I if we go all the way back to our very first show of the year, I said Cincinnati's going to go undefeated and make the college football playoff. Go ahead and mark that one down for good old Andy, boys. But Alabama's getting 14 points in this game. I want to hammer Cincy, but I'm scared. We're in the trust tree right now, and I'm just nervous. Desmond Ridder has had an insane season. He's going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks to ever put on the Bearcat uniform with 3,100 yards, 30 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. Then you enter Bryce Young, the Heisman winner, 4,300 yards, 43 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. You've got Brian Robinson Jr. with 223 carries, 1071 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Jerome Ford, the former Alabama Crimson Tide himself, with 1,242 yards, 19 touchdowns for the Bearcats. This Bearcat defense has been insane all year. They're only allowing 168 pass yards per game, but they have yet to face an offense with the caliber of Alabama. So it's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch. I'm picking the Crimson Tide because I think they're going to win. I will be over the moon if Cincinnati somehow pulls off an upset. I will say everything we've seen from the Alabama, players in the media, because they've decided as a team not to do any of the bowl activities. They're fully focused. They don't want any COVID outbreaks. No reason to cancel the game. But I just get a kick out of every time you see an Alabama player get interviewed, because I forget it. I think it was the tight end who they were like, what are you guys doing, to pass the time, to keep the hours going in the hotel? He's like, we're watching over film, talking about everything, just spending time as a team. He's like, yeah, but like, what about fun? And like, what are you doing for fun? He goes, preparing to win is fun. And that is the biggest like Nick Sabanism I think I've ever heard. But I don't know. Hard pressed to pick against Alabama. I've done it before. I probably will take Cincinnati plus 14 just for the hell of it. And I like to put myself in pain, but fuck. Go Bearcats. I think Alabama wins.
All right, Tom.
Bearcats come into this game 13-0. Desmond Ridder, one heck of a season. But how did the Bearcats really get here? Defense. They only allow 16 points per game. Jerome Ford, a beast on the ground, 19 touchdowns. Alec Pierce has been their go-to receiver defensively. Whether it's Joel DeBlanco, Curtis Brooks, Ahmad Gardner, they have it all on all levels of their defense. Bryce Young, however, Heisman Trophy winner, 4,300 passing yards, 43 touchdowns. Brian Robinson on the ground has been an animal. Jamison Williams and John Mechie III, both healthy, both ready to go. Will Anderson Jr., 15 and a half sacks. He's going to be an NFL stud. They're already comparing him to Devin White. DeMarco Helms and Jordan Battle don't get a lot of recognition at the corner positions. Each of those corners has 3 picks on the season. We look at the X's and O's in this game. Alabama checks off all the boxes for me. They are going to beat the Bearcats convincingly and advance to the college football playoff final.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Andy here. It pains me to not be able to
Right.
pick Cincy here.
I know.
I think the nation is rooting for Cincinnati.
Oh, not me.
All right, well, except for
everybody that's fun is rooting for Cincinnati.
So, yeah, it's so tough. Like I love the points. If I end up taking the points in this game, I think I would go with the plus 14. But in a straight up game,
I'm doing it.
I don't think Cincinnati has enough here. This Alabama team is here year after year after year in the college football playoff. 7 out of 8 years since we've had the 14 playoff, Alabama has been there. This team knows what it's like to be there. I will say, though, I think the pressure is off of Cincinnati a little bit.
Yeah.
Everyone's been talking about, you put them in, they're going to get blown out. But they know, everyone, I think at this point knows, just from looking back at the scores, there's plenty of P5 blue blood teams that get blown out almost every year. So there's no pressure on Cincinnati. They're a G5 team, sure. But other teams who, historically are seen as much better than the Bearcats have also been blown out. So they're going out there. They have nothing to lose. We're going to see some great matchups here. Cincinnati has 2 DBs who are next level in Ahmad Gardner and Kobe Bryant. Them matching up against Jameson Williams and John Mechie, I think is going to be a fantastic thing to watch. Have I missed something?
No, Tom just raised his hand when you talk about teams getting blown out by Alabama, and it was super subtle. And he had this shit-eating grin on his face. But I'm showing everybody right here, okay? $25 on the Bearcats plus 14. You couldn't really see that, but in solidarity, we're making this bet on show.
I love it. The proof is in the pudding. You've seen it on
Yeah.
video, gentlemen. On video,
Andy.
you've got the proof. But yeah, so I think Cincinnati is, they're not going to be able to rely on just Desmond Ridder here on the offensive side of things. So I'll be watching how Alabama defense manages Jerome Ford. He scored a touchdown in every single game this season except for one, which was probably the best defense they played before this game, which is Notre Dame. So if they have to rely on only Ridder here, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. If Jerome Ford can get it going on the ground, I like the Bearcats to cover, but sad to say it, I think the Crimson Tide are going to be in another college football final national title game. It's what happens. Probably the more exciting game for a lot of people here. 2 programs fighting for a chance at the final. For the first time in a long time, we have Georgia taking on Michigan. Kirby Smart versus Harbaugh in the Orange Bowl. Andy, who do you like in this game?
I want to pick Michigan. I really want to pick Michigan. And I don't know. This is another one where I want Michigan to win, but I think Georgia's going to win. So my official pick, I think, is going to be the Bulldogs. The spread currently is at +8. Michigan is not Rutgers. Rutgers is on right now. Georgia is favored by 8 points currently. You just look at what they've done. In my opinion, Georgia's been the best team in the country all year. Obviously, we say what we want about what happened in the bowl game against Alabama. Other than that, they've looked pretty unstoppable. That does make me a little weary to pick them again. Just what happened when they did play a team of that caliber. I don't know if Michigan is Alabama level, but Tom, a guy that you love, Aiden Hutchinson has been incredible on the defensive line. You pair him up with David Ojabo. Is that how you say it? Look at me getting it right. I usually have to ask Tom what his name was. You got Hassan Haskins. You have Hassan Haskins. You have Blake Corum in the backfield. How will they fare against this Georgia defense that's only allowed 9.5 points per game all year? Obviously, they give up 41 to Alabama. Is this Michigan offense an Alabama caliber offense? No, I don't think so. But if they can get themselves going on the ground, pick up a couple early first downs, make it easy for Cade McNamara, that's a big key for me here as well. how well can the young quarterback for the Wolverines take care of the ball against this Georgia Bulldog team? He only has 4 interceptions on the year. He's been able to do it so far. I'm taking Georgia to win. I like Michigan to cover.
All right, Tom.
I view each of these teams as a cake. And what I mean by that is that each of these teams have a cake that are filled with different ingredients, right?
Jesus Christ.
Both of these teams are outstanding defenses. Georgia has the best defense in the nation, but both teams have average quarterbacks, we could argue, right? Stetson Bennett for the Bulldogs and Cade McNamara for the Wolverines. Both young players, by the way, with a lot of time to improve. When I look at Georgia, I'm looking at Zamir White and James Cook. They're a powerful backfield that brings a different ingredient to that cake. Brock Bowers, a tight end who has 11 touchdowns on the season. That's another player to watch. Nakobe Dean with the 5 sacks. Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt are probably going to clog up the middle and show a lot of resistance against Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins. The Wolverines' only loss is to Michigan State, but remember, they also had a 3-point win over Nebraska. If they force Cade McNamara to beat them, it is not going to end well for the Wolverines, especially when you take away Haskins and Corum, who have combined for 31 rushing touchdowns this season. Make McNamara throw. What is Aiden Hutchinson going to have in this game? Will he be the number 1 pick? The Bulldogs have an offensive line who is fairly experienced, except for their center, who's a redshirt freshman, but they may have their hands full here with Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo combining for 25 sacks in total. It's going to be tough. The Notre Dame bias is kicking in a little bit, but regardless, I think Georgia's going to find a way to sneak away with this win. But if Aiden Hutchinson takes over, don't be surprised if Michigan pulls this off.
Yeah, I'm so torn on this game. These are 2 very good teams. I love to hate on Michigan. I've said that so many times this year when they've almost come close to losing, but this is a well-rounded team. Probably the most well-rounded team in Harbaugh's entire tenure at Michigan so far. This is year 7 for Harbaugh. Year 7 of this project. And I think, if anything, the takeaway here is that teams should not be firing these coaches after 2 or 3 years. Okay, this has worked for Michigan. These guys that are here have been this isn't, oh, he's new, I'm going to enter the transfer portal and head on over to Michigan. He's been here for 7 years. Players have had the opportunity to come up through high school, know that they want to go play for him. The environment that he's created there has been huge. You get guys like Aiden Hutchinson when you create that environment. Like you said, Tom, Ojabo and Hutchinson combined for 25 sacks. It's really good. It's probably good enough. It's probably good enough to stop the 5.
Really good.
It's probably good enough to stop the 5 Georgia running backs who have over 40 carries. But those 2 combined, those 25 sacks, that accounts for over 75% of Michigan's sack total for the entire team. So a lot of reliance on those 2 guys. If Georgia's offensive line can sort of take them out of the plays, Zamir White might dice up this Michigan defense if they can get into the secondary. These teams haven't played each other in 50 years. They both want it so bad. But yeah, I agree. I think this all comes down to the rushing game. Haskins and Corum, 31 combined rushing touchdowns. Georgia's defense only allowing 82 yards on the ground, though. Michigan really needs that rushing game to get going here because, again, I don't think we've seen enough from McNamara to, put them over the top here against this Georgia defense if they have to take to the air. Although I said that in the Ohio State game, and then they blew Ohio State out of the water, so who knows at this point. But yeah.
Touchdown, Wake Forest.
There we go. On record here, did you take the 39.5 team?
39.5. I have team total over.
Love
I have game over at 62.5.
Love it.
I was too gun shy to take Rutgers plus 17.5 because I like it. It feels like a lot of points, but the way that Wake Forest just drove down the field, it could be a long day for Schiano.
But yes, man, this is probably one of my favorite matchups in the entirety of the 4-team playoff. I don't know why. I think it's just because both teams have looked so good this year, and they're not the 4 teams that we get every single goddamn year. But if I have to take one, I'm going with the surprise here. I'm taking Michigan to upset Georgia, who I still think has been the best team all season. But I don't know. This just feels like Michigan's year. It feels like Michigan's year to me. And I think they pull it off. Gonna call it here. I think Michigan wins it all. So
Whoa!
yeah,
Harbaugh, baby.
I know Tom probably didn't want to hear that.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, and you've been
I
right
wouldn't
with
mind.
everything you've predicted as well.
I hate Michigan, but I love Harbaugh.
Yeah.
It's a conundrum for me.
The khakis have started to work for the man. So yeah, that's gonna wrap our show there on that news that Tom did not want to hear. Enjoy the playoff games. We'll see you guys in a week for the championship game, and I think we might do a little bit of superlative action along with that game. Be sure to like, subscribe down below. Andy and Tom shows links also down in the description below. We'll see everybody next week. Goodbye.